Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. I'm Dr. Ramel from City Skin Clinic, and today I thought we'd have a little chat about sun protection and how to protect your skin properly. And I also wanted to discuss with you guys just some of the myths around sun protection, and hopefully some of this information you'll find useful for protecting your skin. I'm also going to go through what things to look out for when you're looking for sunscreens as well. Before I start, if you're new to this channel, please don't forget to subscribe. And if you are looking for any more information, or you have any questions about this topic or anything skincare or beauty related, please don't forget to leave a comment below, and I'll answer your questions as soon as I can. Some sun protection. So what does that involve? I think for most of us, when we think of sun protection, we think of wearing sunscreen on just a sunny day, and that's usually kind of the most a lot of people will do. I know from our patients in the clinic and from the questions we get in social media, a lot of people aren't quite sure what to look for in a sunscreen, how to use it, when to use it, and you know, there are some misconceptions about sort of, you know, you only really need sunscreen when it's really hot outside. You really only need to protect your skin if you have lighter, sort of fairer skin, and all of these I'm just kind of hoping to dispel with this video. So before I start, so every single person, regardless of the color of your skin, should be protecting their skin from the sun. And yes, whilst it's true that skin tones that are more melanin rich tend to have some built-in protection from the sun, that's really not enough to protect you from all of the damaging rays in the sun. So really everyone should be using sunscreen, and everyone should be protecting their skin, and sunscreen is not the only way, it's not the only thing you should be doing to protect your skin. So why do we want to protect our skin from the sun? Well, one of the things is, so with the sunlight, what we tend to also have are UV rays, and these rays, UVA is 95% of the rays that we kind of get, reflected down. These actually can penetrate deep, all the way into the deep layers of our skin. The impact of that is that they can damage the skin cells, and that can lead to skin cancer. They also can make the blood vessels abnormal, and you may end up with blotchy skin, little visible blood vessels. They can also interfere with the skin cells making collagen, elastin, and that can lead to thin, crepey skin. So really the two main things that we can see with sun damage is that sort of, you know, the worst of it is obviously skin cancer, and then aesthetically it's a major cause of skin aging. So if you want to protect yourself from cancer and you also want to have younger looking skin, then it's just one solution, which is protecting your skin from the sun. So UVAs make up 95% of the rays that reach us, and these are quite damaging. There are also UVB rays. These are penetrate less of the skin, so mostly the epidermis, the top layer of the skin. They can also reach just the top of the next layer after that, the dermis. These are also can damage the skin, so they can lead to a couple, like UVA rays, they can also be implicated in the development of skin cancer. They can also lead to photoaging, they can lead to hyperpigmentation as well. So it's really important to be protected from them. And then another less talked about is IR. So these rays can penetrate all the way down to the fat layers below the skin, and they are involved in skin aging in a big way. So they can affect transepidermal water loss, so this is the protective layer of the skin, and cause more water to be lost, and that can cause the cells to not function as normally. They can also interfere with collagen and elastin production, and so the skin becomes thin, it becomes crepey, it becomes less pliable. And so they are really important to consider, particularly when you're thinking about skin aging. So Now that we know we sort of need to protect against these, how do you do it? Well, the recommendations are several-fold. On a daily basis, you should be trying to protect your skin from the sun. So what does that look like? That looks like, if you're going to be out and about, try to avoid the sunniest times of the day. So from 11 a.m. till 2 p.m. or whenever it is the peak of that sunlight, if you can, try to avoid it and being in the shade. If it's also incredibly sunny, try to protect your skin. So maybe wear long sleeves and also, a hat. And that the hat protects the skin on your head and the top of your ears. These are common places where we can see skin cancers. And also wearing sunglasses with UV protection to protect your eyes. And then obviously sunscreen. So when it comes to sunscreen, the general guidance is you should be using a minimum of an SPF 30. And the sunscreen needs to be broad spectrum. So what does that mean? So some sunscreens will only protect against one type of the UV rays. And so really broad spectrum means it's going to be doing UVA and UVB. And to go one further, I would also recommend making sure that it also protects against IR. And that's really important. Remember, we just talked about that effect on skin aging and skin quality. So look for a sunscreen that does these things and that it's at least an SPF 30. And then if, other things that you do to avoid sun damage are not using things like sunbeds and tanning machines. They're terrible. They're associated with a really high risk of cancer, and they really ruin the skin. If you look at someone who's been tanning like that for some time, you'll see that their skin loses its quality. It looks quite leathery. It's not great. So even from a really sort of cosmetic point of view, it's worth avoiding them, but also from a health perspective, it's super important. So I mentioned, the sunscreen, what you need to do is look for broad UV protection. So it's going to protect you against UVA and UVB. Look for IR defense as well. And then you might see different types of sunscreen. There are two types: physical blockers and chemical sunscreens. So physical sunscreens are probably the most commonly available ones. They usually have a titanium dioxide or zinc oxide base. And what they do is they bounce off the rays from your skin. So they act as an actual blocker to these harmful rays. Physical sunscreens have come a long way. Most people think of them, they think that you'll have this really thick product. It's going to make you look sort of ashy, or it's going to make you look really just grey looking, or ghost-like. That's not the case. So there are some really good products on the market that are quite thin, and they are going to have a nice natural look to them. They may be also tinted as well, and that will help with the aesthetic side of things. So don't be put off. There are so many. We're so lucky to have so many products available, and I'm happy to put some personal recommendations that I quite like at the bottom of this. And then chemical sunscreens are slightly less well known about, but how they work is they tend to contain chemicals in them. So common ones are something like oxybenzone, but there are a ton of different ones. And what they do, rather than the physically deflecting, bouncing back the rays, they absorb them. So the chemical sunscreen gets absorbed into your skin, and it absorbs the rays and stops them from damaging your skin. These sunscreens, who are they best for? Well, they're quite good if you're someone who doesn't like the effect, perhaps, of having a physical sunscreen. Maybe you want to wear more makeup and layer on top of the sunscreen, so you want something that gets absorbed into the skin. The other things that they're good for is if you're someone who is going to be working out outside a lot, or i.e. sweating, or you're going to be swimming, they're better suited for that. And on that note, brings me nicely to my next point. How should you wear sunscreen, and how often should you reapply it? Well, really the best practice is you should put on sunscreen all over your body, about 30 ml, a couple of tablespoons, and use the sunscreen, and then you reapply, and you should apply it 15 minutes before going out, and then you should reapply it every couple of hours during the day. Some sunscreens you might find may say longer than that, so always check the back, but this is the general advice generally for sunscreens. Also, every time you go swimming, you should then, when you get out of the water, redo your sunscreen regardless of how long you've had it on for, because it can remove that. So that's a really good practice to get into. It might seem a lot, but it is really important, both from an aesthetic point of view and a health point of view. And then what other things can you do to protect your skin? Well, you know, and this is related really to skin cancer. You should be, you know, the general advice is to check your skin once a month, top to bottom. And that includes things like looking between your fingers, looking between your toes as well, for areas that people don't always think about. I'll leave a guide, a link below in terms of how to do a proper skin cancer check. And you know, if you can, it's worth having someone help you. And then really, if you can, then try and get checked by a medical professional once a year to check for this. It's really important. The rates of skin cancer are going up, and skin cancer isn't just limited to people with sort of lighter, fairer skin. Across the spectrum, people can get skin cancer, and I'm really more than happy to do a video on the types of skin cancer and how to look for them if you think that would be useful. So just to summarize, with sunscreen, it's super important, but not all sunscreens are alike. Look for something that has broad UV protection and IR defense. If you are in other countries where they use this different system, just look at your local skin cancer guidelines for you know, what the equivalent for SPF is, and I'll try and leave a link below for this. And you know, protecting your skin from the sun is beyond just SPF. Don't forget to do things like try and cover up, especially when it's really, really sunny, just to protect the areas of your skin where you're not going to use SPF, such as your head and the skin on there. I hope you found this useful. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. If you have any questions, let me know.